You may have asked yourself this question: when do I have enough money to retire? You may be a lot closer than you thought. What's up, everybody? I am King Prime, and I can be found at iamkingprime.com. In today's episode, we will be discussing how to know that you finally have enough money to retire. So you're probably thinking, I'm not old enough to retire. I don't know what retirement looks like. I will never retire. But what this is your independence and your freedom. You may have heard of the FIRE movement. This is where it stands for financial independence, retire early. And this is where you really focus and drill down on saving your money and having financial independence so you can really call your shots and do what you want to do, when you want to do, how you want to do at a very early age in life. People are doing this as young as age 30, and you can do it too. You really have to find out, what does retirement mean to you? Some think of retirement as doing nothing, but I believe that retirement is one of those areas where you can choose to do the things that you would do whether you were paid or not, that you can find another purpose, that you can not have to exchange time for money. And in order for you to not exchange time for money, freedom is what you ultimately want. And financial independence is going to allow that. In your equation of financial independence, always know that there is a tax implication. So you want to keep that in mind as you go through the process. In order to find out how much you need, there are major contributions to this, and it's certainly not a one-size-fits-all. It varies by person. It varies by where you are currently living. It varies on where you want to live once you retire. Being in the Philippines costs different than living in Miami. Consider where you want to live and calculate the cost of living. You also want to consider the lifestyle that you want to live. If you're going to want to travel a lot, spend a lot, live a luxury life, then you're going to need more than the person that is a hermit and just wants to live minimalistically. Another factor is health. How long do you think you will live? How long do people in your family or your ethnicity generally live? As time and health and technology goes on, this advanced world that we live in, we are living longer. Another area, do you want to buy or lease your home? How much do you plan on adding or having for a mortgage? And last but certainly not least, are kids a part of this equation? Because you have to calculate the expenses of how much it costs for kids, expenses, education, just the things that it takes to nurture and help to support a child. Now, here are some factors that you want to consider. You want to pull out a pen and paper, pencil paper, something to write this down. Heck, take out your phone, write it in your notes. But these are things to remember. Add up how much your current expenses are. Once you have your expenses, you're going to then know how much of your current income you need. Now, in this particular equation, for most of you that are looking to retire, you want to exclude the kids' expenses from this, because you're going to have a different set of expenses that should definitely be lower once the kids leave the nest. So once you do the math on your current expenses and your current income and deduct the expenses from your kids, then this will give you your desired income. Now you want to add in your portfolio, how much you've saved and invested over the years. If you're receiving any other type of compensation, like Social Security or any other compensation that you expect, be sure to add that in here. You also want to add in your drawdown from your retirement. Now take that final number that you're going to need on an annual basis and multiply it times 25. Once you've multiplied that number, this is your savings amount. That is how much you need to retire. Now, this is the good part. We're going to run the numbers. I call this the magic formula. Now, for easy math, we're going to say you need $60,000 per year. If you take that $60,000 and you multiply it times 25, you're going to have 1.5 million. This is called the 4% rule. The 4% rule is amazing. This is a method where you preserve the principal and you draw down 4% from what you have invested. The wonderful thing about the 4% rule is that your principal is never going to be less than what you started with. You are always going to be continuing to grow, and that 4% will steadily be able to be increased over time. The beautiful thing about the 4% rule is that you will always preserve your principal. So you will never go beneath it, but you always like continue to grow above. The money is going to grow because of compound interest working in your favor. Think about if the market is going up, it has an 8% year, it has a 10% year, it has a 12% year on the return, and you're only taking out 4%. Essentially, you are going to be withdrawing at a lower rate than what your money is growing, which is what you want. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Now, again, looking at your average return of 7, 8, 12%, or what have you, or if you are financially educated and you can get more of a return in the market, 4% is being extremely safe. And the beautiful thing is you can actually give yourself a raise over time. Again, think about if you're getting 10% on your return and you're only taking 4% and your money has went from 1.5 million to 2 million. And you say, you know what? That 4% on 2 million is now giving you 80,000 per year. But let's just say, because you're taking 4%, you're like, you know, let's bump it up to 5. Now you can pay yourself 100 grand per year because you started out modest and you use the 4% rule. I wholeheartedly believe that if you are intentional about this, you can do this much sooner than you think. And with that 4% rule, your nest egg is going to grow exponentially. Here's a stat for you. If you retire with $1 million, you have a 66% chance, if you implement the 4% rule, that your money will grow to $2 million. That's with you taking withdrawals every year. The studies have shown that it will take a global famine for this to totally derail. So let's talk about that fail rate. There's a 96% chance that you will have more money than you started with when you implement and utilize the 4% rule. And within the last 100 years, there's only been 4 moments that people have invested, taking their 4% and ended up with less than they started with. And those 4 things were significant in the history of how these things impacted the world. These 4 things were the Great Depression in 1929, World War II in, I believe, like 1937, the 2008 housing crisis, and the tech bubble that a lot of you remember in the early 2000s. So again, this 4% rule is magical. You can take this up or down, but it works. So you may be asking yourself, what if I fall short? Cool, I'm glad you asked that. That is an area where many people struggle. And you may be a late bloomer. You may be a person that started late. You may have found out about this financial tip later on in life. But you gotta step up your savings. You may have to work a few more years to preserve your savings and to get to that amount that you want. You may even have to work part-time. What you want to make sure you're doing is doing your maximum contribution to your 401k. If you have a small business, you want to have a self-employed 401k. Once you're over the age of 50, you can do catch-up contributions. I don't know what that is, but I would recommend maxing it out because many of us have, didn't start out making a whole lot of money. And as you progress in your experience and age and all of that, your salary and compensation goes up. So now you're making more money. Your kids are gone or leaving and you have less expenses and you can afford to contribute more. So if you're 50 or above, contribute the catch-up contributions and contribute to the max. And because you're doing such a great job, you want to earmark those bonuses, those salary upgrades, those tax refunds, any extra cash that comes in, throw it towards retirement. You will thank yourself later. So here are your takeaways. Look back at that pen and paper. You may want to replay this episode a couple times. Look back at the pen and paper, get your number and know what your retirement number is. If you're not there, ask yourself, how can I increase this number? What can I do to be intentional because I don't want to exchange time for money as I grow older? Trust me when I say this, you want the experience, you want the relaxation, and you want the option. Life is all about options. And if you can create the options and be intentional about it, put aside a solid decade to focus on your finances and stop trying to do what everyone else is doing, you will make some serious traction. You've got to get serious about your money. You've got to get serious about your money or you will never make serious money. Hey, look, per the usual, I really, really appreciate you listening to this video, this podcast, however you're consuming this. Thank you for tuning in. If you have questions, if you want to make some traction on this area, or you are trying to figure this out and you have no idea where to go or where to get started, send an email over to info@modernkingspodcast.com, and I will either cover your question on a future podcast, or we can connect for a private consultation. But I will definitely assist you in getting to that next level. I know you know somebody that wants to be their best financially, and they want to hit those goals and those marks. You take out your phone and send this episode right on over to them, because this is all about helping as many people as we possibly can. And when you share this episode on social media, tag me in it. Tag me at iam.kingprime on Instagram, and I'll be sure to give you a shout out. If you don't find a way to make money while you're asleep, then you will work until you die. That quote is from Warren Buffett. Follow me at King Prime on YouTube. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at iam.kingprime. And I will see you in the next episode. Until then, look your best, do your best, and be your best.